guys, welcome to my channel. And in today's video I'm going to be reading a book. I've read this book before, but I think this book is so good that we should share it with other people. What do y'all think? So that's what we're doing here, and there's so many details that the author included and that the illustrator included for us to enjoy this book. So let's see if we can do that together. So I want you to look at this book and I want you to predict, do you think it's going to be a non-fiction book or a fiction book? So what is fiction and what is non-fiction? So we have fiction, and I like to think of the F in fiction and the F in fake. So typically, in all fiction books, they did not actually happen and that they're not true. Maybe you could say that they're fake. So you think of fantasy or fairy tales and things that could never happen. A dragon is never going to come swoop down and grab you and take you to a tower. Those are things that couldn't happen. But sometimes there are fiction books that could happen, but they didn't happen. So that could be a contemporary fiction book or historical fiction book. A contemporary fiction book means that it's kind of set in a place of today. It's very familiar to readers. Maybe there's iPads in the story. Maybe they have a living room and they have family members similar to our family members, and maybe they go to the movies, etc. So it could happen to us, but it didn't happen because it's fiction. Historical fiction, maybe it's set in a place of history, for the readers to kind of get a general understanding of what it was like to live back then, but that specific situation, that specific story did not actually happen, so that's why it is in fact fiction. Then we have nonfiction, that is all true, and nonfiction is where we can get most of our facts and stuff. So I want to show you a few literary components before we start reading that tells us that this is actually a nonfiction book. That's cool. I didn't know nonfiction books could even look like this. This looks like a normal book. It looks like I'm going to enjoy it. The illustrations are beautiful. Talking about the illustrations, right here it says that Juana Martinez Neal is a Caldecott Honor winner. Do you know what that means? That means she has won awards called the Caldecott Honor Award for her illustrations. Her drawings are so beautiful that she's gotten awarded for them. Not this particular book, but similar books like that. And so that's a huge accomplishment. She must put a lot of work and effort into her creations. That's super cool. So I want to show you these literary components that I'm talking about that are very similar to most nonfiction books. So the first thing is the author's note. So this book has an author's note, and the author wrote some more information about each topic that he wrote about in the book part, if that makes sense. So if you look, I'm just going to flip to something. This says fry bread is art. This is called a subheading. Subheadings are typically bold or maybe even a different color. And in his author's note, he also has a fry bread is art. And it's right here. A fry bread is art, but there's a lot more words on this page than there were on the other page, right? So this is just a little bit more extensive information about Native Americans and their art. So I think this is a really good idea for you to start looking and seeing if the books that you read have author's notes, and maybe we should read them. There's some great information. I'm going to include some pictures of the author's note at the end of this for you to pause and for you to read, because it's some really good information, and I'll refer to it as needed throughout this. So usually, literary components or features of a nonfiction text is the author's note, subheadings. Subheadings is a huge thing. It tells you the main idea. The main idea was fry bread is art. Here's some more information about it. And so subheadings is another literary feature of a nonfiction text. And then we have another page. This is typically like one of the last pages, and it's right here. And this has the references and the notes right next to this beautiful picture of a Native American family. But the references is basically the information that the author has got from someone else, and he's giving credit to that person. And so this is not information that he's come up with. This is not information that he's researched and published. This is information he has gotten from someone else, so he's giving them credit in different notes. So usually if someone has done lots of research and they have the references to back it up and the notes to back it up, that means it's probably a nonfiction text. So now we have references, notes, subheadings, and can you read the last one? An author's note. So shout out to one of my students. We read this and we were in car rider line, and she came up to me and she's like, Miss French, I have an author's note in my book. And she showed me, it was a biography of Martin Luther King Jr. If you're watching this, shout out to you, girl. So proud of you. It was an amazing teacher moment to know that you teach something and then they listened and then they apply it. So that's exactly what she did. So I challenge everyone else here to do it exactly what she did, and to look. And so we discussed, I was like, do you think this is a fiction book or a nonfiction book based off of what you showed me? And she goes, I think it's nonfiction, because He was real. He was a real person, and there's resources or references, I'm not sure which word they used, in the back. We should start looking in the back of our books to see if there's an author's note, and maybe that means it's nonfiction. So let's get started and let's enjoy this book together. So, Fry Bread, A Native American Family Story. Written by Kevin Noble Maillard, illustrated by Juana Martinez Neal. Ooh. Maybe this is the fry bread right here? Wow. Class, I want you to comment down below what you remember the fry bread tasting like. Our class actually got to try fry bread. We made it. Well, I made it and brought it in, and we actually had a topping on it. Maybe you'll remember the topping. Fry bread is food. Flour, salt, water, cornmeal, baking powder, perhaps milk, maybe sugar, all mixed together in a big bowl. You can see that okay. Fry bread is shape. Hands mold the dough, flat like a pancake, round like a ball, or puffy like Nana's softest pillow. So I want you to look at this picture, and I want you to try to remember the things that we discussed in class. What connections can you make with this picture? What does this remind you of? Does it remind you of anything? Is there ever a time where you were at this table with people around, maybe your family members, maybe your cousins or your siblings, with an adult, and the table's messy, and looks like there's ingredients everywhere, and they're making something? What connections can you make based off of this picture? Do you remember making something like this? I want you to pause the video and either just think about it really quick, maybe share it with someone that's next to you. If we were in the classroom, we did a turn and talk, something like that. Fry bread is sound. The skillet clangs on the stove, the fire blazes from below. Drop the dough in the skillet, the bubbles sizzle and pop. Can you sizzle from where you are? Fry bread is color. Golden brown, tan, or yellow, deep like coffee, sienna, or earth, light like snow and cream, warm like rays of sun. Fry bread is flavor. See beans or soup, smell tacos, cheese, and vegetables. Delight in honey and jam. Rise to discover what brings us together. So those are some of the toppings that they were talking about. And we actually put honey on our fry bread. And I think it tasted pretty good. I think there was only 3 students that didn't want honey, but it tasted really good. And now, fry bread is time. On weekdays and holidays, supper or dinner, powwows or festivals, moments together with family and friends. What a beautiful illustration. Fry bread is art. Sculpture, landscape, portrait, our daily craft, shared from teacher to student, a cycle of heritage and fortune. Fry bread is history. So in the author's note, it tells you a lot more information about this subheading. It says the long walk, the stolen land, strangers in our own world, with unknown food, we made new recipes from what we had. So if you read the author's note, it talks about how the Native Americans, so we discussed how native means first or original. So if they're the original Americans or the first Americans, that means that they were here first. And so people came in and they liked the land. They wanted the land. They didn't care that the natives were already there, and they wanted them out. And we kind of practiced get out. That's what they said. That's really unkind. And they made them do the long walk. It's called the Trail of Tears, and you can read that in the author's note. It gives you just more in-depth information that would make the story make more sense. That's why it's so important to read it. The stolen land. They stole that land from the natives. Strangers in our own world. They didn't know them, but they were so mean to them. The Native Americans truly, truly struggled. They truly struggled to get where they are today, and they still struggle. And we can kind of look at our own culture, and we can discuss culture in general from this book. What is culture? Do you know what culture is? Culture is everyone has their own, and it's typically when a group of people, they share the same beliefs or customs. But Fry bread tells us all about culture. It says culture, or fry bread is history. Culture is history. It says fry bread is art. Culture is art. There's different cultures that have different types of art. My culture doesn't necessarily weave baskets and make dolls that are so beautiful like that. Culture is time. Fry bread is time. The time that you spend together with your family. That's how how you embrace your culture. Fry bread is flavor. And then it says fry bread is food. The foods that you eat in your culture define your culture. Fry bread is color. Our cultures all have different skin types and colors, and our food has different colors. There's different shapes. So that's really special. So this book is exploring culture, and I challenge you to look at the things that they're talking about, the natives, and look at it at yourself too. What is my culture's history? Did we ever struggle? Do we still struggle today? Fry bread is place. Alaska, Kansas, all the way to Maine, down to Delaware, onto Georgia, over to Oklahoma, Colorado, and California. Cities and lands we all call home. So this is giving us a visual representation of where most natives live today. That's pretty cool. Okay, so this next part, I actually had to look up how to say these because I wanted to be able to say them correctly. So I'm probably not going to say them as correctly as I should, but I tried my best. So fry bread is nation. So these are all tribes, by the way. Abnaki, Apache, Arapaho, Ojibwe, Onondaga, Agalasu, Narragansett, Navajo, Nipmuc, Seminole, Shoshone, Sac and Fox, hundreds and hundreds of tribes. So something really cool is that they've included the hundreds of tribes in the front of the book and in the back of the book. So that's really cool, that the detail that they added into this book. Fry bread is everything. Round, flat, large, small, north, south, east, west, brown, yellow, black, white, familiar and foreign, old and new, we come together. Bread is us. We are still here, elder and young, which means old and young, friend and neighbor. How special. They're still here. They struggled, they persevered, they worked hard, and they're still here today. What pride. That's awesome. That's amazing. Can your culture relate to that? We strengthen each other to learn. Remember we talked about how cool it is to learn and that we can learn anywhere. We can learn at school and we can even learn at home. And that's what we're trying to do right now, is learn together at home to change and survive. And actually I noted right here that these details that they added is actually Juana Martinez-Neal's kids. Like they wrote this with their own handwriting and they included it right here. So that's another detail that we talked about. Fry bread is you. How special, how special. And then also there's the recipe and the recipe's directions that you could follow if you wanted to. So you could screenshot this if you want to try it. So yeah, I think that's it for this read aloud. I challenge you guys to look at your own culture. What kind of foods do you eat? Look at the subheadings, look back, rewatch this, and see the different things that make up the Native American culture and fill it in with your own. What kind of things how can you relate to this? I had so much fun reading and learning with you guys. If you enjoyed this read aloud, I encourage you to please subscribe down below and hit that red button. If you will give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Also, if you'll hit that notification bell for future teacher resources or read alouds, that would be awesome. So I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for reading with me, and peace out. Bye.